I felt this experience that I've been having of recent of really remembering to fully take up space, like
Mm.
just fully, like with my posture and in my body, but also beyond my body. And, this way of feeling at once connected to myself and all that is.
Eileen, I would love to begin by just getting you to reflect back on 3 months ago when we first had our call and we met for the very first time. Could I get you to share some of the problems or issues that you were facing at that point?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like our connection began as I watched you and Heather interact, and I felt lots of curiosity. And then when I just right away booked the session to talk with you, and the particular day that I had that call with you, I was at my mother's. I had returned from a trip to Thailand, and I had made the commitment not to return to my home where I was living with my husband. And it was clear to me that there's all layers of safety in the world, right? Like you can feel physically perhaps safe, but it rocks your world when emotionally or spiritually or financially you don't feel safe. And so those were the things that were going on. My home is safe, but I wasn't feeling safe. I was really feeling off center and out of touch with how to move forward. Like I had received vision and inspiration and imagination of some place I wanted to go with my work and with my life. And it all felt so trapped inside. Like, how was I going to be doing this work when there seemed and felt like there were so many energetic obstacles to that in my life, in my physical world? And so I don't even really consciously remember thinking at the time that I saw your interview that I needed what you had to offer. I just knew once I heard it that that you were actually what you were speaking about in that interview actually really resonated with where I was. And it felt like I could really imagine that it would be helpful to engage with you. My background is the work as a midwife. And so I had that sense or feeling or that quality of the connection with you, of that midwifing energy, which is really strongly about holding a container, a space. For me, it was for me to hold the physical space and the emotional and spiritual space for her to safely move through that journey of bringing a baby forth. But of course, I think that metaphor for bringing other things forth also exists, right? We are always birthing, whether it's a child into a physical form or not. But that actually happened to be the work that I had been doing.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all of that. And it sounds like you were at a stage or a phase in your life when you were ready to be birthed. You mentioned making the decision, and that was a huge decision for you. So that was a key moment of transition for you. And you talked about how at the very beginning you didn't even think that you would need support in any way. But because of your background as a midwife, it was almost like when we connected, you felt that, hey, perhaps it's time for yourself. And in fact, I want to speak to one of the challenges that you had shared with me, a challenge that you face, which I feel is such a universal problem or issue struggle that a lot of women face, which is putting themselves first and giving themselves the opportunity to receive and be supported. So would you like to share a little bit more about that? How you felt about your own personal process at the time, and what was it that you were looking for?
Yeah. So I've done a fair bit of work and other kinds of therapy or body work or energy work. I actually had done some work with horses. And there was this thing that had happened for me of really learning about centering myself. And the issue when I met with you was that I was feeling all of that, but enacting it seemed to be the problem, like the issue. It seemed like I could feel all of those things about placing myself first, but such a strong history, both in my personal life and my work life, of deferring first to everyone else's needs. And I had heard it a lot, and I maybe used it some in my life for certain. But there was this way in which I was not understanding that when I was able, through these last 3 months, to actually not just have that something that I could think of or that I could imagine being true, or even that I could physically feel in my body, but to actually move from that place, like for that to be my center, waking up and really asking myself those questions, the processes that we did together. Really, there was one in the very beginning, was like just the simple thing, and I have it on my altar, is just the way that I could continue to be true to myself. And how unexperienced I felt in that. And even when I would face that, and maybe not so much to actually share with you, but to share with myself, there was all these layers around that. There was this shame. I felt ashamed that I couldn't do this simple thing. And it was through these daily reminders of embedding it as a practice, and just living with my granddaughters and noticing that it's not one thing and one day that they remember the things. They practice them, and and I actually have a granddaughter who's going to be turning 4 next week, and she I would actually hear her say it to herself. Now I'm going to go to bed and I'm going to go to sleep, because if I go to sleep, mommy's going to give me a treat in the morning, and you want that treat. So it was an external thing, but I knew I wanted to live this way. And so I was like, wow, she's having a talk with herself out loud. I could hear her. She was in the bathroom, but I was like, oh yeah, I have to talk to myself. I have to remind myself and find ways to soothe myself, and really just make it a daily part of my life until it becomes that, like now I would say there's much more of a habit. I mean, certainly I get pulled off from it, but genuinely able to say what my needs are, to know what they are, and then to actually not just ignore them. That was it. I knew what the needs were, but I was willing to ignore them or place them aside for what I thought was what someone else wanted. But one of the things about it is that it's actually the best gift that I could give myself, but also everyone else. All of my relationships are improved because of it. I'm at ease with my son and daughter-in-law. I'm at ease with my granddaughters because I'm not trying to be who they want me to be, or for me to try to interpret from their behavior what, because this is what I was doing. I was like saying, okay, Dave needs me to take do whatever, X, Y, or Z, or I want to please him. I don't want him to be displeased with me.
Mm.
Well, it was okay for me to start saying it's all right to just say I can't do something, than to do it and be all off center and using so much of my life voice. If I was going to get to this other work that I shared with you I wanted to do, how would I ever get there while I'm deferring to everything and everybody else? That's the best gift that the 3 months has given me, is this opportunity to occupy and be present as the center of my life.
I have to say this, that one of the joys of working with you, of journeying with you these past 3 months, was witnessing the beautiful relationships with your granddaughter. As much as you are learning from her, I can tell from what you share with me that she has also learned so much from you, and that there is this generational healing of the feminine womb, of not taking up space, of not putting ourselves first, of not tending to our needs. And so, in modeling for your granddaughter, in the moments when you did take up full space because you learned to prioritize yourself, to look after both yourself and others, versus only looking after other people at the expense of your own desires and needs. I think that is such a powerful role modeling, more than anything that we say or that we can, share in a verbal way. It's the actions that we take, and also the whole energetic shift that comes when you embody and when you inhabit that person that you want to be. At the very beginning, you were sharing something that I tend to find to be quite a resonant struggle as well, which is that you've already done a lot of work. You have done so much, but it felt like there was this final hurdle that you needed to cross to arrive at where you are now. And all I really needed to do was to facilitate. Like, my role as your coach was to facilitate and to hold space for you. Just as a midwife, the pregnant mother has technically done all the work. Now she's ready to go into labor, and she really needs someone to hold space for her, to be very present and to support her in that, in all the contractions and all the expansion that comes. So it's very, very similar to this journey that you've been on. Yeah.
Yes. And that I find is sort of a part of the trick, is that I say, oh, that doesn't have value, or that doesn't have meaning. That idea of holding space is really not one that I feel is being honored or respected or held in my world, my community, outside of the work of a few midwives. It's being managed and manipulated, and this beauty of trusting the unfolding of the other by holding the container and valuing that holding, placing that as not nothing. Like, oh, you don't do anything. You're not testing. You're not prodding. You're not checking. You're not doing the things that are expected in a medical model. But in the midwifery model, the center of this is to trust the process. It's not going, the body was designed to give birth to that baby. And it knows when to initiate labor. The baby actually initiates the labor. When the baby has completed and has come to the place where the lungs are at readiness to be inflated, then the baby actually will exhale a hormone into the amniotic fluid and signal to the mother, I'm ready. And when we do all of this manipulation, break the waters, induce the labor, we have already, at that very tender beginning moment, taken that away from the baby, taken that initiatory step of choosing their time, their readiness. And I feel it's very, very problematic and very deeply at the root of some of what we're dealing with. I mean, when I also work with youth, and when I ask what is a stressor of theirs, they almost all tell me how pressured they feel about time. Yeah, and perhaps it is even this rushing from the womb that is happening, that is giving us this sense that we're hurry up, hurry up.
It's so interesting that you bring in these birth analogies. There's so much wisdom in everything that you've just said. And I find so many similarities in the work that I do and the work that you do as a midwife as well. Because the idea of, this pressure to perform, to get to an outcome. So let's shift the conversation somewhat, because I want to speak to your process. You had
Yeah.
decided to work with me on a
Yes.
specific outcome to do with your work and your business.
Yes.
And it was so interesting the way that you trusted the process and the way it unfolded. And that is the beauty of this divine feminine unfolding that comes through when you're held in a container like this. Your mind may think, okay, I'm here to work on one thing. And then the miracle of life is that the baby will show you what else needs to be looked at. And so it feels like you had a very rich and varied journey. And at the end, you still came a full circle to looking at your work. So I'm curious, like, what are some of the tangible gains that you have received during our time together with regards to the work that you initially wanted to work with when you signed up for this?
Yeah. So that's very interesting that you're speaking it like that, because I would likely never have chosen the various issues that have come up to help me get to where I wanted to go in my work. But actually, I was really called to work deeply on issues related to hurt and shame and way that I was measuring myself in my marriage and in my relationships with other family members, like my children, my grandchildren, my brothers and sisters. And and it seemed like the most difficult place to actually show up as me, like showing up professionally and working on just continuing to evolve the midwife work that I want to do. I wanted to do that. I felt some mastery there. I felt like I had a good ideas and good plan, and oh gosh, downloads of information were coming to me about how I could do it. But when we would check in, and what was happening in my life was consistently this way that I wasn't speaking in these relationships from this masterful place that I can speak to when I'm in that role as a midwife. I had hesitated and hesitated and hesitated about some issues around money and the divorce and even just the interactions. No, I actually didn't have to answer those texts, or I didn't have to call. I could actually tune in and see if it was the right time or the right moment for me. What was important for me? What did I need?
What I found was that, especially for you, but also something that I find to be very universal for me as well, was that once you got clear on what your needs and desires were, and you let go of all the shame and the guilt of having them, what naturally evolved was that you came up with clear, firm boundaries that were loving, compassionate, but also did not allow anyone who didn't align with your desires and your soul dreams It didn't allow them any space anymore because you were so clear about what it is that you wanted to call in. And once you connected and you had that clarity, everything else just seemed to flow into place. I remember the conversations that we had when you would share that you would be meeting certain people at work, or that there would be events, you would be going on trips, and you were networking and meeting all these people. And then things just naturally flowed into space, into place. And there was so much magic. I remember like you kept sharing with me the synchronicities of the animals that would come to you, the conversations that you were having, that felt to me like, yes, because you were so aligned now, there was now this cosmic conspiracy almost to show you that everything
Yeah.
is going right for you.
Yeah, so many confirmations, and it just couldn't come out any other way. Irene, it's really quite hysterical. I really wanted to write a business plan and like just get it down in that very masterful kind of format. And what ended up coming, I'll have to photograph it and share it with you. But I took this large poster board and drew circles on it because I have so much I want to do, but the language that came was really, and I look at them every day. I look at these two different pieces that I've done, which are just like really like a work of art. And then I let my grandchildren color with them with me. Like I didn't worry that I was going to be presenting it somewhere and like there would be judgment around any of that, because I wanted their energy on my work, because I'm actually doing it because of them, right? I mean, in part, my love for them is wanting, wanting, a, to leave them a better community, a community that, I mean, I want my granddaughters to have options and my grandson when they need care. And I have some work to do around infusing some love into that care in that system. And it's so, it's reminding me of that conversation about going out into nature, get out into nature every day. That was one of my assignments. And like, just noticing.
Mm.
And it's so true about like the ecosystem out there, but it's so true about the analogy of the ecosystem within too. When the heart in the emotion and the spiritual work are being fulfilled, the mind and the expansion into possibilities and to creativity and to ways of thinking about things, even currency and finances. What is currency, right?
Yeah, that came up big time in a couple of our sessions, didn't it? And it was beautiful the way you were able to shift out of the old dynamic, the conditioned programming of scarcity and lack and giving yourself away, to arriving at a place of really trusting that the universe will provide, and then enjoying some of the abundance and the richness that was already there waiting for you.
Yes, yes. So finding the ways that I have, instead of focusing on the gap, or instead of seeing that gap as lack, it now appears to me as possibilities and opportunities, right? It can fill up now. But in the past, it was I need or I want. But when I release, I think you may have said it to me one time, this co-creative process, you don't have to do both parts of it. Like, or somehow you said, oh yeah, remember there's the divine there, willing and ready and able to support and do that part of it, right? Because that's actually the model that I used in my relationship that was so exhausting and not functioning in any positive way any longer. I was doing both sides of it.
Yeah, I think the really beautiful thing here that you exemplify, Eileen, is that when you are aligned with that divine soul purpose that you have, which is of such enormous service to the community that you're part of, and it comes from such a beautiful place in your heart of wanting to leave the world a better place, to leave a legacy behind that will be of benefit and support to your grandchildren. And then it was really just a recognition of the missing piece here. Just as you're holding space for these people in your community and you're supporting them, you also needed support and to receive. Because I think so often of the time, so much of the time, we think that, oh, I can do it. I can bear the responsibility on my own. I can do this independently. But I think that magical moment when you decided for yourself that even though it was a financial stretch, you said, yes, I'm going to do it. And then everything just fell into place. And it was a large part of it was because of your intention and your commitment. And what resulted was that all the blocks that kept you trapped, a lot of emotional conditioning and limiting beliefs, you were able to shift your perspective during our time together. And it's so interesting, again, because coming back to the whole analogy of birthing, the 3 months that we had together could potentially be seen as the first trimester, I suppose, which is so key, right? That's a very important, significant part of a pregnant mother's journey. And as we continue our work together with the ongoing coaching, it's just, making sure that everything comes into fruition at the right place at the right time. And because you've already had this beautiful, solid foundation of trust, not just trusting in the universe, but also trusting in yourself. So much of the work that we did was seeing your gifts and talents, having someone reflect and mirror back that to you so that you can really center yourself in that. So I'm really excited about our, our ongoing journey ahead. And if you're talking to somebody who is thinking, is this right for me? Is it time? Am I ready to receive coaching support? What would you say to them?
Yeah. So I feel that you have to drop into the trust. I had to say, I'm going to trust this process. And well, you're the person that the divine has, I believe, placed in my path. The characteristics and the quality of the person that you're going to trust must match what it is you're trying to do, what it is you would like to do. I needed the container with someone who had those qualities. And I mean, there was, for me, such resonance and a coherence with your vibration. Everything from the tone of your voice and the pace of how we work together. I did not need to be pushed. And I've never felt pushed. And I've never felt as if the direction of what was going on was anything more than a pure intention on your part for me to go where I wanted to go. And that was always so important in the midwifery. Like, I didn't want to make the decisions for mother. If she wanted to give birth at home, I wanted to help her achieve her goal. That was hers. That's what she wanted. And if she wanted to be someplace else, I wanted her to be someplace else. And that is what I've honored really in our relationship. And by the way, the relationship, when you think about entering into it, it's a deep dive in this container that is not simply during the period of time that we interact, the hour and a half or the hour that we long visits that we did. And of course, I would never have scheduled them the way that you did with every week. I would have wanted to stretch that out over months. And your surrendering to what you know about coaching and what you know about the work that you do was like for women who are like basically business women. I mean, I'm sure many women who come are have their own ideas, of course, about how it should go, but there was this way that I trusted that you knew the roadmap around certain pieces of it, because in the beginning there needed to be the foundation, and then the various processes that we did, again, they came maybe to you through the relationship between us, or whatever magic happens once we start working together. It's about saying yes to yourself. It's about saying yes to a surrender, in a way, to a process, an energy that is not inside of you is going to help guide you, because you heard where I wanted to go.
You put that really beautifully, Eileen. I couldn't have said it better myself. First of all, I just want to thank you and honor you for your deep trust, and to just say, I'm in really deep appreciation that you trusted the process, and that, the container that I held, which is very much an energetic container, and being someone who is sensitive, who works with other conscious realms, you were able to sense into that as well. And I mean, with each client that I work with, it's different, but you're absolutely right when you say that the relationship, like, it's got to be a good fit. I mean, coaching to me is such an intimate container. It's where I want my client to feel safe, to be completely honest, open, and vulnerable. And in order for that to happen, there's got to be a certain frequency at which we resonate. So
Yes.
that allows the trust to happen. And then
Yes.
as the challenges unfold, as in everybody faces challenges, you are able to surrender into the process. And
Yes.
you spoke of one thing that I really appreciate and I deeply honor, which is that these are qualities that I value very much myself, and which is why I ensure that the space that I hold has that, because not every coach does it that way. But that was the point that you alluded to around autonomy and agency. How so much of the time we defer our power and give it away to somebody else. In this container that we have, I see you as the co-creator, and we weave the space together. I bring my knowledge, my expertise, and my experience, and you bring all of you, all of the life experience that you have, so that together we can figure out and work to see which is the best way forward. So yeah, you're right in saying that a lot.
Yeah, and it just melted so well. There wasn't, I just don't know how to, it was like magic, that it just sort of, you would say something and I would be, well, like, that's perfect. Yeah, let's go there. And yeah, it just felt like it was, the process has been very, very organic for me. And the work of it, it's been work, and there's been pain and difficulty and grief, because I am facing these long held patterns of relating, and I didn't know that I needed to fix up my personal life to do my professional life. I mean, I knew it, but I didn't want to do it. There was a part of me that didn't really want to do that. I wanted to hold this over here. I mean, I didn't want to end this marriage. I wanted it to just be mine and just be. But when you're in a marriage with two people, you can't do both sides of the relationship. And when I began to do myself, it was clear that it was not a marriage.
And what I so appreciate was the courage that you had to really face and meet this, because you're like, yeah, it's time. You're ready to make that change, and you don't want to wait around any longer. And that to me is exactly what I look for when I decide to also commit to working with a client. Like, I want to see if she is ready to commit, because the divine feminine is here. It's rising, it's awakening, but you've got to
Yes.
say yes. You've got to say yes, and then the transformations and the miracles and the magic will start to land.
Yeah. And the surrender feels big only only in the mind. Like it was not, it was what when the yes came, and I made the payment, and I just didn't discuss it with other people. I didn't ask permission from anyone else. I said, you know, if I'm going to enact this vision, I need help. I need help. And even in saying that right now to you, I don't really feel like it was is clear. Like this conversation is clearing. The surrender is big in the mind before you've actually done it. The letting go is like a deep, gorgeous swan dive into being. You just, I can't, you can't know it before you arrive in it. I just have to say that, and I do encourage it because it's a better life for all of us on this planet. The more that humans begin to do this work, which is something I really honor that you're holding that space for that to happen, because it's truly, truly needed and necessary. But it's only on the thinking realm that the challenge actually exists, because the beauty of the surrender is very, very, very real, and it's not the pain that you think it's going to be. Like you think you're going to be going into, if you've done lots of other kinds of coaching where, I've been pushed and pushed and pushed, write the reports, write the business plan, get it going, get these, get your calendar filled with things. I don't think you've ever said that to me, but my calendar's getting filled with things, by the way.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
You sit right there. It strikes me, and I guess I'd love to end on this magical note, is the leap of faith that we often have to take if we want
Yes.
to see the change. It's not about waiting for the change to come to you. It's about you made the decision that you're going to take this leap. You weren't sure quite how it was going to happen, but you trusted. And then there's that beautiful quote. I've seen many variations of this, but it was the idea of, going to the edge, taking the leap, and without realizing it, you're flying. And that is as magical as it can get, because you don't fall. The gravity doesn't pull you down. You're buoyed up by the cosmic divine magic that is there to support you in your commitment. So thank you so much, dear Eileen, for giving me the opportunity to, number one, have this conversation with you, but also it was such an honor to facilitate this process with you, knowing that the work that you are doing is in such great devotional service to the divine feminine.
Thank you.